I made a video earlier today talking about how people in the center and people on the right need to start expressing their beliefs in the face of the crazy left wing that is trying to push this country off a cliff. And now, one of the responses that I get very, very commonly to assertions like this is, Carlin, we could lose our jobs if we say what we think. We can't express ourselves because we might get fired. Hey, it's a valid concern. We're going to talk about a crazy BS reason that someone got fired for not exactly this reason, but pretty close to it. A lot of people are getting fired for their political beliefs. It's a, response to Black Lives Matter, all that stuff. It doesn't make it okay. And frankly, I'm going to be a little hard on you. This is not a reason to hold back from expressing yourself. The fact that you might get fired is not a reason not to express yourself. In fact, you should be expressing yourself precisely for this reason, because about 50% of the country agrees with you. About 50% of the country is going to vote for Donald Trump in November. They agree with you. What happens if everyone starts expressing this? Do you really think that workforces can afford to lose 50% of their staff like that? No, they can't. They can't. The only reason these firings keep occurring over BS nonsense is because people are not expressing themselves. If everyone was expressing what they thought and doing it in just a respectful way to say, no, this is what I think, this is why I think it, I've had these conversations with many of you. You are all fully capable of doing this. If you were doing it, this nonsense wouldn't be happening. So here's the story we're going to look at today. SDG&E worker fired over alleged racist gesture says he was cracking his knuckles. A Ramona man says he was fired from his job at SDG&E after a stranger posted a picture of him on Twitter and accused him of making a white power symbol with his hand. So, listen, HR people, organizational leaders, this is ridiculous. The fact that people are getting fired over stupid nonsense like this, because this is not a white power symbol, and I'm going to explain, if you really think this is a white power symbol, you need to watch this video, because this is not a white power symbol. We're going to explain that in the course of the video. But this is just ridiculous. You cannot be doing, this is so detrimental to the workplace, so detrimental to the organization, to all of a sudden just have this policy where you can fire people with no warning who are not doing anything wrong. This is not only detrimental to the people you're firing, this is detrimental to the people who are staying there. It is detrimental to the overall organization, because if your employees are watching you, and again, 50% of your employees are voting for Donald Trump, 50% of them, if they're watching you fire people for no good reason, are they going to have any loyalty to you? Are they going to be motivated to go the extra mile, or are they just going to come in, do the bare minimum to get by, fly under the radar, not offer any ideas, not offer any suggestions, not do anything new or innovative, just keep coming in, doing the bare minimum they need to do to get by, then going home, relaxing, kicking back? That's what's going to happen. You are going to have at least 30% lower productivity than if you had an organization that was cultivating an environment where people felt safe, people could say what was on their mind, respectfully, of course. I'm not talking about putting people down, but we shouldn't be firing people for their political beliefs. We shouldn't be firing people because they're cracking their knuckles. That's what happened here. The guy was cracking his knuckles. I can't crack my knuckles like that, but some people can. Let's read what happened to this gentleman. It all started about 2 weeks ago near a Black Lives Matter rally in Portway when Emmanuel Cafferty, a San Diego Gas and Electric employee, encountered a stranger on the roadway. The stranger followed Cafferty and took a picture of him as his arm hung out the window of his truck. The picture made the rounds on Twitter, accompanied by a claim that Cafferty was making a white power gesture made popular by white supremacist groups. All right, let's just take a look at what he did. His arm is hanging out of the truck. He's going like this. He says he's cracking his knuckles, which I can absolutely see. But let's not get it twisted. This is not a white power symbol. This started as a troll. This started as a bunch of people on 4chan who thought it would be funny to get pictured, because this is the OK symbol, right? This means okay. Even the Anti-Defamation League agrees with this. They thought it would be funny to be able to find pictures of celebrities and politicians doing the OK symbol. It is the OK symbol. And saying, they're white supremacists. Obviously, it started as a troll, man. It's also the circle game. We talked about this when the West Point cadets got investigated several months back. I think it was like December or something, where a whole bunch of West Point cadets were playing the circle game, which is essentially you do this symbol, you hold it below your waist. The goal is to get someone to look at the dang symbol. I don't understand the why this is a fun game to play, but apparently people in the military play this game all the time. It's a game. It is not a white power symbol. And even this article kind of admits that. According to the Anti-Defamation League, the gesture, made by forming a circle with thumb and index finger and extending and separating the other three fingers, has been used in recent years by white supremacists to form the letters W and P that has long been used as a sign for signifying okay or approval. Therefore, it shouldn't be assumed that a white supremacy symbol unless there is other evidence to support the claims, according to the American Defamation League. Christ's sakes. Cafferty claims he was just cracking his knuckles. Why is this guy, this doesn't even make sense. Why is this guy who's like hanging out in a truck, like be throwing the white power symbol at a stranger? That just makes no godly sense. Soon after the encounter, a supervisor of Cafferty's told him he was suspended and that further action may be taken after an investigation. A few days later, he was fired. Now, this might not seem like a case for expressing what you think in the workplace. Everyone, for people who've never been fired, you might think it's like the worst possible thing that could happen to you. I assure you, this guy's going to be able to find another job. And hopefully he ends up at an organization that is not going to fire him over nonsense. You do not want to work for an organization that is doing this. I know these stories are everywhere right now. I totally get it. But you do not want to work for an organization that makes decisions like this. It is just indicative of every other crappy decision that they are going to be making in the course of your employment. There are so many better places out there. I promise you, not every organization is insane. Cafferty maintains he was unaware of the hand gesture until the whole controversy started. When my supervisor said I was being accused of doing a white supremacist symbol, that was baffling, he told NBC7 on Monday. I don't know how long it's going to take for me to get over this, to lose your dream job for playing with your fingers. That's a hard pill to swallow. Cafferty is Mexican-American and says he came from a diverse family of all races. He says he's proud of his SDG&E for taking any allegations of racism seriously, but he wants his job back, and they should absolutely give him his job back. This is absurd. SDG&E said in a statement, "We hold all SDG&E employees to a high standard and expect them to live up to our values every day. We conducted a good faith and thorough investigation that included gathering relevant information and multiple interviews and took appropriate action." How many interviews can you possibly do with someone who had his picture taken by a stranger while his arm was hanging out of a truck? Who else was there to interview? This makes no godly sense. Listen, here's what I know about investigations being conducted in organizations, because I know a lot of like lawyers and professionals who do these types of investigations. When someone actually does something wrong, when there's actually a there to the investigation, the person they're investigating almost always admits it. Almost always admits it. So if this guy doesn't, he's saying, first of all, he's a Mexican-American, so I have a really hard time assuming that he's just throwing the white power symbol around just because, like, for kicks, and he's actually doing it intentionally. Secondly, like, if he's saying that I didn't even know this was a white supremacist symbol, which the average person has no idea because it's the damn circle game or the OK symbol, that's how it's used in common culture. Like, I absolutely believe him. I 100% believe him. I know people who do this when they're cracking their knuckles, and if you catch it in, like, the right way, it is absolutely going to look at the white power symbol. That's what it's going to look like. This is stupid. This is an HR person who's like, well, we don't want to get made an example of, and this picture got put on social media, and we're going to allow social media to make all of our decisions for us. Again, you don't want to work in an organization like this. And SDG&E should absolutely give this guy his job back and absolutely apologize for how they treated him. Let's just finish up the article. NBC7 spoke to the man who originally posted the picture to Twitter. And who the hell does that guy think he is either, by the way? He has since deleted his account, good, and may have gotten spun up about the interaction and misinterpreted. So the guy who SDG&E is even saying they did a very thorough investigation, the guy who posted the dang picture is now admitting that he may have misinterpreted what happened. He says he never intended for Cafferty to lose his job. So I bring up a story like this both to acknowledge, I really do want to acknowledge that there is danger right now in losing your job. But that's not a reason not to speak up. That's a reason to speak up. They can't fire everybody. If people were to speak up in a collective unit to say this is what we believe and we are not racist people, we are not bad people, we want everyone to succeed, we want everyone to have access to opportunity, then this stuff wouldn't be happening. This stuff can only happen in an environment where people are not speaking up, where people are scared to speak up. So if you want the firings to stop, if you want this nonsense to stop, you've got to do your part, man. You have got to do your part. And if you don't do your part, then don't blame anyone else. And don't be surprised, by the way, if they fire you for something stupid anyway. And when they do, no one's going to be around to stand up for you because you weren't there to stand up for them. People at SDG&E, they should be standing up for this guy. His friends at work should be standing up for him to say, we know he's a good person. We know he would never do this. They should have gone directly to HR. But they didn't do that. He lost his job. And so now if the same thing comes around and happens to them, they will have no one to blame but themselves. If you are not doing your part, don't expect anyone else to do it for you, folks. Don't expect it. We've got to start taking responsibility. This is insane. Organizations need to take responsibility. I have a special place in my ranting for organizations who do moronic crap like this. But individuals have to take responsibility too, because when individuals stand up to organizations, they can't get away with stuff like this. So how much will it take? How far will you guys be pushed? I think it's gonna be really interesting to see. Honestly, it's like a little social experiment. How far can we push people before they finally, at long last, start speaking up and expressing themselves? We'll see.